On this episode of Luthorville, we're going to be doing a product review of the 2016 Knapheide PGNC 96B flatbed. As you can see, it's attached to the Ram 5500. However, we do a review of that in another episode. So right now we're just going to be talking about the flatbed.
Now, most people who purchase this kind of configuration of truck are going to be using it for construction work and things of that nature. My motives, they're a little bit different. I'm actually using it to tow a tiny house, which is a part of my whole Luthorville tiny house off-grid project. Now, the house hasn't actually been built yet, but I've owned the truck for a good 6 months or so. So I figured after having it for this long, that's a good period of time to start giving people my opinion on what I think of the performance characteristics of the truck and the flatbed.
Here are some of the specifications for the 2016 Knapheide PGNC 96B flatbed. The total weight of the flatbed is 1,344 pounds. It's 114 inches long and 96 inches wide. The gooseneck hitch ball is 2 5/16 inches, and the diameter of the gooseneck hole is 1.3 inches. The gooseneck has a gross trailer weight of 25,000 pounds, while the tongue weight of the gooseneck is 5,000 pounds. The gross trailer weight of the Class 5 receiver hitch is 12,000 pounds, and the tongue weight of the Class 5 receiver hitch is 2,000 pounds. The receiver hitch itself is 2.5 inches. The flatbed has a 7-way trailer plug in the gooseneck box and a 7-way trailer plug at the receiver hitch. The front toolbox is 18 inches high by 30 inches wide by 18 inches deep, and the rear toolbox is 18 inches high by 12 inches wide by 18 inches deep.
Since 1848, Knapheide has provided customers with high-quality, work-ready transportation solutions. Knapheide has continually evolved the business and customer base throughout the years. Starting with custom wagons for pioneers taking on westward expansion, to cabs and bodies for America's first affordable automobile, the Model T, to grain bodies for farmers all over the Midwest, and to service and utility bodies for a wide range of vocations covering every corner of North America. 6 generations of Knapheides have been committed to providing customers with a vehicle they need to get their job done and move on to the next. Knapheide customers keep the water running, lights on, streets and railroads maintained, engines running, phones ringing, and crops growing. Knapheide customers build things, great things, from houses to skyscrapers. They carve streets and railways through seemingly impassable areas. They lay pipeline through uninhabitable environments. They make the impossible possible. And they rely on one thing. Besides their determination, talent, and hard work ethic, they rely on their vehicle. Their vehicle takes them to and from the job site, securely stores their tools and equipment, assists them with their work, and ultimately enables them to maintain their livelihood. Thousands of hard-working people have come to rely on Knapheide to build the right work vehicle for their application. They're plumbers, electricians, contractors, farmers, technicians, mechanics, and many more. Knapheide takes pride knowing their products keep America up and running, always moving forward. Our greatest asset? It isn't our cutting-edge fabrication equipment and machinery. It isn't our superior raw materials. It isn't the advanced technology utilized or even the progressive assembly lines. It's our people, our employees, young and old, families, from first generation to sixth. Some started yesterday, and some have spent their whole career here.
And there are other companies who also make flatbeds that are designed specifically for towing RVs and tiny houses.
Right, there's Heron. I've also heard of Highwayman and Utility Body Works.
Yeah, now all of those are really cool, and they're at a much different level than the Knapheide. For example, the Highwayman Outlaw, it's a great body, but it's about $10,000 more than what this one cost. So this was my balance.
Yeah.
It's not completely plain, but you know, it's nice aesthetically speaking.
Yeah, it's got nice lines.
Yeah, it looks good. I really like the headache rack and the way that it's shaped to the body of the truck. There are some cheaper bodies out there that are just squared off, and I don't think they look nearly as good. So aesthetically it's nice, and I'm pretty happy with it for that reason. From this angle we can see how the headache rack curves and conforms to the contours of the truck, and it fits together quite nicely. Here we can see the rub rails and one of the stake pockets. The latches and the locks on the doors are very solid. Here's one of the steps right in front of the wheel well, so you can step up to the top of the flatbed. One of the storage compartment doors shown open so that you can actually see the spring mechanism in the corner as well. The rubber seals and latches on the doors are really solid and tend to seal up the doors extremely well. Here you can see some of the welds that are holding together the braces for the rub rail. Here's a close-up of one of the stake pockets. You can just use pre-built stakes, or you could make your own with 2x4s. One of the rear lights, the 7-way hookup, close-up of the brake light and the rear backing light. The tire was actually attached by Knapheide at the factory, which isn't the thing that they normally do, so they kind of went out of their way for that, which was kind of cool. The gooseneck hitch ball, including the safety chain tie-downs. Here we can see it's a 30,000-pound gooseneck ball. The gooseneck hitch at another angle so you can get a better look and see the 7-way plug in the upper right-hand corner. Here we can see an overall view of the flatbed, including the door for the hitch. Here's the rear receiver. Another view of one of the cargo doors. You can also see the rubber seal around the edge. Note that this is the only door that doesn't have one of the spring latches. Here you get a good size of what that small door looks like. You can still store a 2-gallon DEF tank in there. Another close-up of one of the step-ups to the top of the flatbed. A good look at the diamond plate. The grill work on the headache rack is all laser cut, so all the lines are very precise, very sharp, very crisp. Gives it a really nice clean look. There are 2 fillers for the fuel tanks, one in front and one in the rear. Now you notice that the cutout in the metal for the rear tank is really nice. These are actually laser cut and they look really good. This one was obviously done by hand. This is for the front tank, which they had to do custom. It's something that the standard body doesn't have on it, so they had to do that separate.
So what are some of the pros and cons of this? Tell me about the pros first.
Okay, 2 pros, things that I was very impressed with. The welds on the frame itself, the way that they actually welded the body to the chassis of the truck, those welds are really, really good. And the other thing that was very cool about them is they actually took the time when they installed it to paint over the welds, which was something that kind of surprised me. I wasn't really expecting that. I don't know. I've never gotten a truck with an upfit before. I don't know if that is just an industry standard thing or if it's something that they went out of their way to do.
You're special.
I don't know. Well, I mean, Knapheide, I'm not saying they did it just for me, but I don't know if Knapheide does that and if anybody else does, but it's cool to see they take the time to paint back over the welds, because obviously it's going to prevent it from rusting and things like that, because you have to expose all that metal.
Right. And
the bolts themselves that they use in the front, the way that the bed is actually attached is it's bolted in the front and it's welded in the back. Now, ideally, it should be bolted in both places, but I can tell after looking at it that the bolt patterns that they have simply didn't line up.
Okay.
So they have kind of, you know, a number of different bolt patterns, obviously, for different vehicles, and I think because of the length of it or whatever the issue was, they weren't lined up, so they had to weld it. But they did a really good job on those things, in my opinion. At least that's how I felt at first. But once I started to look at this a little bit more closely, this is the passenger side of the truck. And again, look at those 2 holes and how they don't remotely line up, right? Those should have bolts through them. And now if you look at the driver's side of the truck, you can see that the holes that are there probably could have had bolts put through them. So why is it that the driver's side of the truck has the two holes that line up pretty well, but the passenger side doesn't? See, look at that. Those line up pretty good. So that makes me think, obviously, the bed probably isn't put on the truck properly. It's kind of skewed. It's off by just a little bit. So I do want to see if I can get that rectified, because it should obviously be a little bit better than that. In fact, after the fact, I found this PDF file on the Ram website called Ram Cautionary Notes. And as you can see, they actually say specifically that an upfitter should not be welding anything to the frame. So here I've gone praising Knapheide for a good job, and they did something that Ram specifically says you really shouldn't do. In fact, it goes on to say that if you are going to do any welding, you should avoid welding near the fuel tank, fuel and brake lines, or other components that may be damaged by the heat of welding, which is exactly what Knapheide did. Again, doesn't say that you can't do it. They just really recommend against doing it. And as you can see right here, there is the fuel tank, and right there is the fuel line, and right there are the welds.
So another one of the pros of this truck bed is the LED lighting that goes along the perimeter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really impressed with the LEDs. They're a lot better than standard lights. They're far, far brighter. And it makes the whole truck look like a Christmas tree going down the highway, so.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah. I mean, safety-wise, you can't miss a big, white, glowing, red, amber Christmas tree.
Right.
So, yeah, very good running lights.
So unfortunately, there are a few cons having to do with this truck bed.
Yeah.
One of which is the welds are not so great.
Well, some of them. That's the interesting thing about the way that this thing was put together, is that there's a way that you're supposed to weld stuff. It's called beading. And when welds are beaded, that's the best way to do it. If you kind of just slap the welding material on there, that's not the greatest way to do it. And this bed sort of does both. It depends upon what it was that was welded. So there are some things about the bed that are put together really well, and there are some things that are
A little iffy.
yeah, not so good. Also, the paint being a little bit thin, I've only noticed that from, you know, little chips and dings like that. It seems to me like some of it chips really, really easily, a little bit easier than I would have expected. It looks great. It looks very impressive. It's a nice high gloss white, and it seems
very
like
shiny.
it would be a nice thick kind of coating, yeah, but it's really not. So. Unfortunately, I even started to get a little bit of rust around some of the drainage holes inside the storage bins, so I really need to keep my eye on that. Knapheide actually has an entire video talking about their painting process.
We would like to take a moment to introduce you to our custom-designed 12-stage SST cathodic electro-deposition finishing system. To show you this process, we will be following a service body from the final assembly area through pre-wash, clean, pre-treatment, coating, curing, and finally, the trim process and preparation for shipping.
One very positive thing I can say about the paint job is that you can easily touch it up. I actually repainted this receiver hitch after the safety chains really scratched it up very badly using regular gloss white Krylon spray paint. And as you can see, it still matches the rest of the body, and you can't tell that it was ever retouched.
The gooseneck door doesn't latch quite securely.
Yeah, so what I did to sort of compensate for that is I took some rubber furniture bumpers and put them on there. The problem is that when you flip the door open, there's no way to remove the door, and there's no way to make sure that the door stays down flat. So as you're going down the road, it's going to be constantly bouncing, and obviously chipping the paint, and that's a place where you could start to get rust and things like that. So like if I can't take it off, then how am I going to at least make sure that it's not chipping? And I figured stripping some kind of rubber bumpers down there is about the only thing I could think of that could work. So That's, yeah, that's one thing I'm not real thrilled about, but hopefully that will solve the issue.
Nice.
Yeah.
Also, the headache rack, you said it's kind of hard to see out of.
That is something that is going to happen with just about any kind of upfit that you get.
I see.
Obviously, you want to have some kind of security through the headache rack, whether it's bars or whether it's the mesh like mine is. So
Right.
it's a complaint, but at the same time, I can't really fault Knapheide for doing it, because it's like no matter which product you buy, you're going to have those kind of issues.
Right.
So it's just something to be aware of when you are getting a flatbed, that no matter which one you buy, it's probably going to be kind of hard to see out the back window.
So that's where the backup camera comes in, which would have been a really good addition.
The backup camera is really designed specifically for attaching the gooseneck.
Okay.
You can put backup cameras typically in the rear by the hitch, and those are the ones that you use for attaching something to the rear hitch or for backing up the vehicle. But when you attach it up front, you can pretty much only use it for attaching something to the hitch.
I see.
Plus, this one, it's so wide, and it actually views within the rear view mirror. So the image is really tiny.
Wow.
It's kind of useless for anything but attaching the gooseneck, because you can't see anything else. When it comes to failing to attach the backup camera, you know, I have to admit that I can't fault Knapheide too much, because what happened was this. It took forever for the order to arrive from, I believe, Indiana or Illinois. I don't remember.
One of those I-states.
I don't remember where the main factory is, but it had to get shipped out to California, and it was taking a long time. So when the California division actually put this thing together, they told me it was going to take them like a week or something like that, and they did it in like 2 days.
Wow.
So that was really great, and I think it's wonderful that they went to the effort to really get the thing done quickly. Unfortunately, I think in their rush to get it done, they forgot to attach the backup camera. So I had to get that done when I came back.
Got it. But now we can back up to our heart's content.
That we can. Hopefully it will actually be useful. Honestly, now that I've seen how small the image is, I'm probably just going to use the mirrors. It's probably not going to use the camera very much, but...
Sorry, Knapheide.
Yeah, and RAM, for leaving that as an option, it's really not going to help me at all, but oh well. I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
Yeah. Live and learn.
Things to consider.
Mm-hmm.
So, Eric, after going over everything and living with us for about 6 months, what is your opinion of the Knapheide flatbed?
Well, I think it's one of those you get what you pay for type things. The Knapheide isn't the most expensive one out there, but it's also not the cheapest one. And I feel that at this point, for the performance characteristics, for the quality of it, I think it's really something that was definitely worthwhile. I'm glad that I didn't go with something cheaper.
Right.
And I don't think it was necessary to spend an extra $10,000 on one of the more expensive ones.
Yeah.
So overall, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I think knowing how it's going to perform when it's actually towing is something very different. However, I'm also pretty confident that it will do well when I'm actually towing stuff with it, because the underlying superstructure of the flatbed is really well put together. So you can tell just from looking at it that I think it's going to perform pretty well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And you can see a review of that in the future.
Probably. I'll let you know if it's, you know.
If it's successful.
Yeah. I'm confident it will be, especially since, you know, Knapheide has been around for a long time. So that makes me a lot more comfortable to know that these guys know what they're doing. They've been building this stuff since before anybody in the company right now is even alive.
Right.
Yeah. So they kind of have their act together, and I think they definitely made a really good quality product. And everything that I try to promote on Luthorville, I try to always promote American-made products and try to purchase American-made stuff as much as possible. The only time that I don't is if there are no American companies building something like that.
Right.
So, yeah, all in all, very happy with the Knapheide, And I hope that this review has been helpful for those of you out there who have been looking, because I know for me personally, when I was considering the Knapheide, I couldn't find any reviews that were really detailed. I found some that were kind of sparse information, but nothing that really told a lot. So I hope this helps out all of you who are looking for some more details on this.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for watching.
Luthorville is an educational series inspiring kids and adults to become excited about innovations in science and technology by documenting the design and construction of a Mojave Desert homestead called Galatea Meridian. Witness the crazy story of how Eric Muss-Barnes, an unemployed computer geek and struggling novelist, risks homelessness by spending most of his life savings to build an off-grid dream house in the middle of nowhere. Having purchased vast acres of the Old West, can Eric find a stable job and create his home before his money runs out? Take a journey where fortitude and a pioneering spirit continue to forge the American dream on the romantic landscape of the American frontier.
Let's look at some of the pros and cons of this flatbread.
Sure.
Flatbread.
Flatbread. The flatbread.
Flatbread.
So the flatbread. A lot of
Flatbread? Where?
clothing plants. Some of the clothing plants.
Okay.
These bleeds.
Okay. I'm just gonna not say that word. So, okay.